the point of this lesson really is to talk about improv and basically two main concepts of improv that I think pretty much cover the approaches that one would take to soloing and playing lead in improvisation. And those two concepts are you got scales, which we all kind of start with the scales, right? We've learned the scales and we can kind of, you know, noodle around the scales and it all sounds, it'll sound pretty good, pretty decent. But the second concept is really important. And when you combine the two, I think you hit it on all cylinders. That second concept is called chord tone targeting. Some other people might refer to it as arpeggios too. And it's the concept is basically that whatever chord is being played in the rhythm section, that as the soloist, you're targeting the notes of those chords in your solo. And you use the scales to kind of connect everything together. So the scales are kind of like the glue, but the chord tones, that's what will really take the improv to the next level. And to be completely honest with you, I wish I would have kind of grasped that concept a lot sooner. Somebody showed me the blues scale, man, and I kind of went with the blues scale, and I didn't learn a lot more after that for a long time, and I wish I had earlier. So this is the chord tone targeting is important, right? So the chord tones, if you guys don't know what chord tones are, when I say that, every chord has a formula, and it's made up of degrees of the major scale. So a major chord is made up of the root, the third, and the fifth note of a major scale, right? A minor chord is made up of the root, the flat third, and the fifth of a major scale. And we can go on and on and on with the different chords and what they make up. A dominant seven chord has an extra degree, so it's root, third, fifth, and the flat seven of a major scale. So those are the chord tones, and those are tones, notes that we want to be targeting as the chord progression is flowing underneath of us as we're soloing and playing over top of it. So we just had somebody else join in. Hold on just a second. So so we got scales and the chord tones, okay? So I just wanted to cover that real quick. So when we start to learn how to improvise over a song, the first thing we need, or a piece of music, anything, the first thing we need to do is determine the key and the mode of the song, okay? So the key, or the key can pretty much be determined by the chords, typically, but not always. The key is kind of the root note of the first chord of the song. That's not always true, but that's a good place to start. In the case of Sugaree here that we're studying, this is in Mixolydian mode, okay? I just got some notes here I want to refer to. So the reason I know it's in Mixolydian mode is because we do an analysis of the chord progression of the song, right? So, and we have to also understand the harmony of the different modes. And if you guys are all members on the website, I have a great little tool. When you're logged in on the website, if you click on your name up there, that other menu comes down and you go to helpful tools, there's a modal harmony chart there. It's all the modes are there and it lists the harmony. When I'm talking about harmony, I'm talking about the chords that relate to the degrees of the scale. So like for in a major scale, the first degree, the fourth degree, and the fifth degree are typically played as major chords. The second, third, and sixth degree are played as minor chords, and the seventh degree is played as a diminished chord. Well, all those modes have different ones. The Mixolydian mode harmony is root is a major chord, The second is a minor chord. The third is a diminished. The fourth is major. The fifth is minor. The sixth is minor. And the flat 7 is major. It's a flat 7 because that's what makes the Mixolydian mode. You take a major scale, you flat the 7th degree, you now have a Mixolydian mode. So Sugaree was written in Mixolydian mode. And let's just go over that real quick, and then we'll stop for some questions. So the intro goes B to E, right? Okay, so that's B to E. Okay, so in Mixolydian harmony, the root is major and the 4 is major. So if I play Mixolydian mode, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's my flat 7. I'm in B Mixolydian here. Okay, my B is the 1, or the root. That's a major chord so far in this song. And the E was also a major, so E in Mixolydian and B Mixolydian is 1, 2, 3. Right there's an E, so that's 4. Now it could be, still could be E major, which they're relative. They have the same notes, so it doesn't they kind of go back and forth. It doesn't really matter. But where I really determined that it was Mixolydian was by studying the pre-chorus and chorus, because we have when we go into the pre-chorus before the chorus, we have an F sharp minor, okay, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th degree of B Mixolydian is F sharp, and that in its harmonic structure is played as a minor chord, as well as the C sharp minor. It's played in the pre-chorus and the chorus, and that's the 2. 1, 2. That's our C sharp minor. That's minor. It's played as a minor in B Mixolydian. Okay, so we kind of just went through a lot real quick about the theory behind this. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, all right, good. Okay, so now we've determined the mode is Mixolydian. Now, before we get started, there are ways, hopefully you guys have studied this on the website, of getting around the neck, the whole neck, in Mixolydian by just memorizing a few fingerings, right? If we memorize the fingering for the Dorian mode, the major or Ionian mode, the minor or Aeolian mode, in Phrygian and Mixolydian, those 5 modes, those fingerings starting on the low E string, we can get all the way around the neck because they are relative. They share notes. Okay, so let me just run through that real quick. So we're in B Mixolydian. We know Mixolydian here with the root on the low E string. Okay, so we keep going, right? But we know B Mixolydian. Now its relative minor scale is C sharp minor, meaning they have the same exact notes. B Mixolydian, C sharp minor, same notes. So if I come up to C sharp, so that's the 9th fret, and I play a minor scale, those are all the same notes as these, as the B Mixolydian. Okay? So if you go up to E major, that is the same as B Mixolydian. Same notes. So I can play an E major scale. Okay? Then the next step up would be Dorian. It'd be F sharp Dorian. Now I'm getting up high on the neck. We can go down here. and then Phrygian, G sharp Phrygian. So all of those modes share their relative, meaning they're related. They all have the same exact notes. So this is how we can maneuver all around the neck in the same mode if we just kind of memorize, and it's always the same order. So this will work for any tune, right? You just have to first determine the key and the mode, right? So it always goes in that order. Mixolydian, then as you move up the neck, up this way, that way, right? It's minor, then major, then Dorian, then Phrygian, and it just repeats that cycle as you go up the neck as far as you can go, right? We can only get through it about 1.5 times on a 24 fret, guitar. But so we're going to see, and I'm going to point that out where he's at when we get into the solo here. So, which we're getting ready to do. Does anybody have any questions about just kind of the prep here before we get into it? I kind of see people talking, but go ahead and unmute yourself or kind of just.
Right. How did you determine what mode it was in? I didn't quite catch that.
Okay, the mode I determined based on the chord structure of the song, right? So if you study, you kind of have to know your modal harmony, which I pointed out that I had that chart on the website under helpful tools, and I know that with Mixolydian, the root note is major, the second degree of the Mixolydian mode is minor, played as a minor chord. The third is played as a diminished. The fourth is played as a major. The fifth is a minor. The sixth is a minor, and the flat 7 is a major. Okay. So when I studied the chord structure of the song, I couldn't get it with just the verse because it's just the 2 chords, right? Because it could be E major, although they're the same, So, but the notes you're targeting could be different. But I really determined it more in the pre-chorus. Really, the dead giveaway is the A major chord, right? So when I have if it were in B major, I'm sorry, when I said it could have been an E major, I meant B major. It could be B. I was like, it's either B major or it's B Mixolydian, because B major, the 3 major chords in B major are B, E, and F sharp major, right? But in this song, there's an F sharp minor, and there's the C sharp minor would be the same, but the dead giveaway was the A major chord, because A is the flat 7 of B, and when that's played as a major chord, that typically indicates Mixolydian mode. Okay, hopefully that clears it up. It's if you go and look at that modal harmony chart, I think it'll make some more sense to you. Mike, I think you had a question.
Yeah, it was just a question. What was the Dorian mode for this?
Oh, the Dorian is F sharp.
F sharp. Oh,
yeah, F sharp Dorian. Okay. Any other questions so far? Okay. If you guys, for those of you who might have missed it or come in later, if you have a question, because I can't see all your videos, you can always use that reactions button and raise your hand, and I'll see it over there on the side if anybody's got a question. All right. So hopefully all the technology works here that I have set up, and you guys can hear the video as we play. And then I'm going to toggle back and forth between the tab. I sent you guys all the tab. I hope you have it there. Sometimes it makes it easier to print it out or have it blown up on your computer or something. You can see it a little better. Okay, so all right, so we're gonna start right in here. I'm gonna play the first couple lines and then we'll stop. All right. So here we go. Okay, let's stop right there. Did everybody hear that, first of all? Okay, everybody's getting the audio? Okay, good. All right, so he comes right in and just drills the root note of the whole song, the B, right? So he comes in. Right there on the 12th fret of the B string. And he plays, he kind of slides up to the 13th fret G string. And that makes a big impact right off the top, right? It never hurts to start a solo on the root note because it establishes our bass, right? The root of the whole song, the tonic center. Kind of hits it twice, and then he uses a lot of vibrato in this. Now I don't know how advanced everybody is or how far along you are with articulations such as slides and bends and vibrato. And I think that the point really for this lesson is not so much to be able to, at the end of this lesson, be able to play all these licks, right? Because it took me a while to get this down. I mean, John Mayer's a great guitar player. A lot of people don't know him for that because of his, you know, especially if we're all listening to Grateful Dead, right? He's comes from the pop world a lot, but I had seen him play in some blues festivals and stuff. And I was like, wow, this guy is a great guitar player. He went to Berkeley, studied jazz. He knows his stuff. So I thought this would be a good one to study. But you know, the goal is not necessarily. That's why I sent you guys the tab so that you could really study and get the licks down and all the articulations. After the lesson, but to really just kind of get the theory of it. Why does it sound good? You know, what's he doing here, right? Okay, so again, right away hits the root note. Okay, then this is sweet, I think, right off the bat. He does this, it's a scalular walk down. Okay, right there, and he lands as the chord changes from the B to the E, he lands right on the chord tone, the third chord tone of an E major chord. So he's landing on the third of an E major, right? But it's also in our Mixolydian mode. So, you know, you can play totally, you know, just modal and just go scale all the way, and it won't sound bad, but if you target the notes as the chords are coming by, it just sounds a little better, right? So what he did there, and he's playing little third double stops, thirds. So he's got the B here, and he's got the third of B here. He's playing those together. And he moves that down a whole step. Then he plays the 7th fret on the E string, B. Then 10th fret, B string. And then he lands right there on the third of an E major chord. Now, if I play an E major chord here, that last note, that's our third. That's an E major chord. One a form or shape that we're probably all pretty familiar with. Okay, so if you played that without the thirds, it would just be just right down the scale, right down the Mixolydian mode, starting on the third of the B chord. To our E, okay? So we come in. And that's right on the downbeat. Let me adjust the tab. Right there on That's bar 2. Right on the downbeat of when the band hits the E chord, okay? Okay, so let's any questions on that so far? So we can already see how he's pinpointed that E chord when it came right, well, and the B right off the top. Okay, so let me go back to the video. Okay. So okay, so there, now we're on the E chord. We just came from right there. Then he goes back to the 10 on the B string. This is all still over the E chord. So these aren't necessarily chord tones. I mean, he passes by the 3rd again. But then when he bends this, he bends it back up to the 3rd. So he's modal, but he's playing around that 3rd of the E major chord, right? And then when he lands, now we're back on the B, and he's on the 5th chord tone of a B major chord, okay? So you'll notice a lot of times, maybe not every time, especially on the downbeat, the first beat of a measure, he almost always hits a chord tone. And it basically, subconsciously to the listener's ear, it says, oh, we're on a new chord. Like great jazz improv guys could play a solo without any comp behind them, and you would hear the chord changes. It just in his solo, right? In his melodic playing, you would hear the chord changes with no one playing behind him, and that's kind of what we're going for here. So. And that's a sweet little articulation he does there. That full bend up to the major 3rd of the E chord, right? You know, so I switched to play that with my 3rd finger because I got a little more power there. But if you can bend that sucker a full bend with your 1st finger, that's good too. Okay, so far too, we're mostly in that regular Mixolydian position, you know. We're mostly in this 7th position, B Mixolydian kind of thing, right? But we're getting ready to move into that Phrygian mode here. So that last lick, so now we're on the B. Right there, he targets the 5th chord tone of a B major chord. So if I played a B major bar chord right here, that note we're playing on the B string, that's the 5th chord tone of a B major chord, okay? Then he just kind of noodles here. He hits the 6th fret of the D string and plays the 6th fret of the G string, sorry. This is all over a B chord. Then he does a quick hammer on from 4 to 6 on the G string. Then he slides from 4 to 6 on the D and goes back to the 4th fret G string. Okay, that sounds like this. Okay, so that I noticed in this tune he plays a lot around not really a well they're implied chord tones. In fact, the keyboard player might be playing them, because with the Dead they get kind of jazzy, and their jams start adding nines and seconds and sixths and stuff like that. So I've noticed in this solo that he plays a lot around with the second interval of the chord and the sixth. So that's what this would be, the second of B, right? And then he right there is the sixth of B, and he ends back on the root note B, on the E chord, I believe. So we have okay, and that root note B, right? That note works for both the 1 chord, the B chord that we're playing over, and the 4 chord, which is the E chord that we're playing over. And I think I forgot to mention that the chord progression is B to E the entire time. That's why this is a good one to study. It's just 2 chords, B to E, B to E, a bar each, back and forth, right? So that B note is the root of the 1 chord, and it's the 5th of the 4 chord, the E chord, right there. Okay? Any questions on that so far? Okay. Let me scroll. And we'll take a listen. Okay. Did everybody hear that? Okay. So that's a really cool lick too. So over the rest of that E, after our little, he kind of hangs out there. He lets it breathe. I notice him doing that a lot too. Don't be afraid when you're soloing to let things breathe. Sometimes notes have more of an impact when there's space behind them or in front of them. We don't have to play a note on every beat, right? That's part of the dynamics of the improv. So he leads in. He kind of lets this note breathe over and just kind of hang over that E chord. And leading into the B chord, he does this. Okay? So that is a quick run, basically starting on the 3rd of B mixolydian. So for that note right there in B mixolydian, to the 5th, to the 6th, to the root. So it's kind of a scalular run, but it starts on the 3rd. Then he's using 6th intervals, right? He kind of used the thirds at the beginning with the, right? Now he's using 6ths. So that's 7th fret on the G string, 7th fret on the high E string. Okay? And he's going to slide that up a whole step. So what is he really targeting there? Your 3rd finger is on the 3rd interval of the B major chord, right? So, and I'm kind of hybrid picking that. Like, you can do it however you want. I'm picking the G string with my pick, and I'm picking the high E string with my middle finger. Like that. Okay, so again, highlighting that chord tone, the third. Then he comes up, he plays another set of sixths. This time it's the fourth of B on that's the E right there. So he's playing the 12th fret E string, 13th fret G string. He does this. Gets that, what, 4 or 5 times? Whoops, sorry. Then you go back to where you came from, and then back one more to the nines here. All intervals of 6. You know, I think I've done lessons on sixth intervals. You know, you can kind of really play around with those a lot. You know, so. Right? And then when he hits the E, boom, he jumps up here to, it's the same form, you're just moving it up a string. So instead of G and high E, it's B and D. And if you look, it's part of an E major chord. It's playing the 5th and the 3rd of an E major chord, right when we land on the E major. So right there. Okay, so let me scroll the tab so we can see that. Yeah, so that you can see there on the downbeat, it's the 2 nines, which is outlining our E major chord. Again, so every downbeat, almost every downbeat. All right, so. And then he kind of just tags it with this little. And that is the 13th fret G string. And he slides up from the 14th fret B to the 16th fret B. And then back. Okay. So that, again, in relation to the chord underneath, which is an E major chord right now, he's playing around with that 6th degree again. But he starts there at that little tag lick with the 3rd of E. That's the 3rd chord tone. Okay, so that's. Okay, let's stop there for a little bit and just make sure you guys have any questions about anything related to those licks, whether it be, you know, theory, how it relates to the chord, how to play it, you know, if you're having problems with the articulations and such, anything at all. Jeremy.
I just want, like when I watch you on recordings, I can always back it up when I get lost on something. So is this going to be on a recording that I can like look at it later and be like, I'm keeping up, but every now and then I get lost and I can't back you up. I don't want to.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm recording it and you guys will all get a recording of it. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
So the thing I really, like I said in the beginning, that I really want to make sure you guys are getting is the relationship between the notes that John is playing and the chords underneath and why it sounds good. And that hopefully my goal here is that when you guys walk away from this lesson, after it sinks in a little bit, when you approach the next song that you're soloing over, that you kind of have these concepts. It takes time. You know, it's not like you're going to go to the next improv session and just have it all down nailed, but just that these concepts are starting to seep in and you're looking for chord tones. You're looking for chord tones to make things sound a little more melodic, a little more intentional. Okay, so any other questions? All right, let's take a listen, see what's coming next. Okay. That's some good stuff there too. Okay, so we have all on the E. Okay, then he does this. That is an ode to Jerry if I ever saw one. Right? So let's see. We're going to start that lick. Starts on the 14th fret of the high E string. And here's where these chromatic, this is another cool little articulation that you can take away that Jerry used a lot as well, right? These chromatic licks. And where can these chromatic licks be used, right? Well, right here, he's still on the E major chord, but we're approaching the B chord, right? So he's going 14th fret high E string. That is the 5th chord tone of a B major chord. Now he's quickly pulling off and then sliding to the 11th fret, which is the 3rd chord tone of a B major chord. Then he goes right back up to the 14, so 11, 12, 14, and then as we hit the B major chord, boom, root note right on the downbeat again. Okay. So I've noticed those chromatic things that Jerry does a lot are often done between the 3rd and the 5th, which is where this is. This is the 5th of a B major chord. And it's 5th, flat 5, 4, 3, right? Really sweet lick. Sweet articulation too, because he kind of holds that 5th out. Right? And he lands right on that B. That's right as the rest of the band's coming down on the B chord. So let's see. Let me go back a little bit. Right? Okay. Then he's playing around again with that 6. Or I'm sorry, that's the 2. The 2 and the 6 I talked about earlier, he kind of likes. So this is over the B chord still. So now we're kind of playing around when we talked about the relative modes, now we're playing around in the E major fingering. It's still B mixolydian. I don't want to confuse you. We're kind of, the way I describe it, we're borrowing an E major fingering to get around the neck in B mixolydian, because E major, B mixolydian, same notes, right? So that's kind of where we're at here. So we go 12 on the E, 12 on the B, 13 on the G. And he lands on that 14, which is the 2nd interval of B, right? Or you could look at it as the 9th, because they go by 7s, right? So the 2 is the 2 in the first octave of a major scale or any scale is the same as the 9th degree in a 2-octave scale, right? They're the same note. So sorry, 12, 12, 13, 14. Then he does this. Let me adjust the tab. Well, he's going to do a little slur into our E chord now is coming up. Okay, so that's 13 on the G, pull off to 11 on the G. And that note, you could look at that note as the 3rd of the E chord coming up here. And he lands on the 14th fret of the D string, which is, boom, the root note of the E chord that's coming up. So he again, on the downbeat, lands on a chord tone. So let me adjust that. Okay, so, and then he went back to the 13, which is the 3rd chord tone of an E major chord, which is what we're playing over right now. Then he goes back to the 11th, kind of a scalular thing, right? The 2nd note. And he hits this B again on the B string, 12th fret, like 3 times. Just really kind of wants to imply again, not only the root note of the whole piece of music, but that's also the 5th chord tone of an E major chord. You played an E major chord, bar chord right here. That note's in it. So is that one. Right? So in this note here, right, that's like just scalular. That's kind of the connective tissue we talked about at the beginning. You got your chord tones. You use your scales to kind of connect everything together. And that's a good example of that. Because it's almost just, well, what's that? That's an arpeggiated E major chord. Right? So your ear is hearing E major. Okay. Any questions? All right. All right. Let's listen a little further. Okay. Good stuff in there, too. All right, so now, so we do our little, and then he does this, right, there's that chromatic thing again between the 3rd and the 5th of B. He's walking right into the B chord. That's the 5th chord tone of B right there, the 14th fret of the high E string. So he's starting that lick on the 12th fret of the B. Then he goes 11, 12, 13, 14. Then he starts this kind of pedal tone thing. Right? So that He is straight up outlining the chord tones of a B major chord, period. 5 to 3 to 1. Right? He does it twice. Then he goes 14 on the B. And then he goes 12, 13 on the G, back to 12 on the B. I think. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we got our arpeggio here. Now, 12, 13, he goes back to 12. And this is kind of like a rake. I'm doing kind of like a sweep upstroke thing. Then he goes, here, let me adjust the tab there so we can see. So we got, so we're on the E chord now. That's our 5 on the E, right? Then he, right? All that is E. That is a straight, again, a straight E major arpeggio. 5, 3, root, right? Then he does a slide into the 13th fret, which is our 3rd chord tone of an E major chord. Then he does a pull off to 11 and slides to 9. Or you can pick them. And then he does 11 to 9 to 8. So it's kind of a scalular thing. He's kind of just walking down the scale. And then he hits the, so we're on the 3rd of B right there. Okay? That's the 8th fret of the G string. He's going to jump up and play the 11th fret of the high E string, which is the 3rd of B major chord again. Same note. So okay, let's listen a little further. Okay, now it starts to get, there starts to be some more complicated, at least to play licks. So, so there we had, let's see, we did. Right? So now we're on the B chord again. He bounces back and forth from the 8 on the G to the 11th. Then he does this little arpeggio. That's so that's from 11 on the high E to 9 on the high E to the 12th fret B string. So we have our 3rd of B, and here is our root B. This is a 2nd or a 9. So he likes that note. And then he just kind of goes a little lick like 11, 9, 7. And look where he lands again. he's going to land right on the third chord tone of the E major chord. So right there on the downbeat, if you guys can see that. Same note as, you know, when he was doing the whole, right? Okay, then he does this crazy fast kind of lick. Okay, so that's an interesting lick. It's over the E major chord, right? What's cool about this is if you stacked up, and I'm not sure what's going through his head right here exactly, okay? You could look at this two different ways, I guess. He does this rake of, he's outlining a chord. It's 13, 12, 11. G, B, and high E strings. He's just kind of raking them, kind of palm muting them a little bit. Well, that right there, if you lay those tones out over an E major chord, it makes an E major 7 chord, like this, like a jazzy sounding chord. Right? So it's a major chord, root third, fifth, and we add the natural 7, which is what that would be over an E major chord. Now, it's also that note is the third of B. So I'm not sure if he was intentionally trying to make an E major 7 chord over the major chord, which sounds really cool, kind of gives it this little jazzy flair, or if he's just targeting the major third of the B chord that is the root of the song, right? I kind of tend to think he was trying to make it sound like a major 7 chord. Then he does this lick, goes back to 9 here, then 12 on the B, 9 on the B, to 11 on the G. And then you go back to the 9 and 12 and 9 on the B. So it's and that's all just kind of like a run, you know what I mean? He's kind of in this minor fingering now for B Mixolydian, right? The C sharp minor. Now what's really interesting is after this, that is a blues lick, right? That sounds really bluesy. So that is just, you're sliding from the 6th fret on the G to the 8th fret, grabbing the 7th fret B string. I'm using my 3rd finger and 2nd finger. Then you're going to slide back, like a quick slide. He's just hitting the root note of B twice, and that's where we land on the B chord again. So all this, that up to there is all over the E major chord. So, you know, I don't know exactly what he's thinking. It's other than it's just kind of a quick flurry little scalar run. But that was surely intentional to sound like a little bluesy lick. And land on the B there. Okay? All right, so you guys got any questions? I know we're going long here probably. I didn't know how long it would take. If you guys If you guys have to bail, you'll definitely get the full recording. I hope you guys can stay on. I'll try to move a little quicker here. So, all right. Let's go listen to a little bit more. Okay. You can kind of hear that he's starting to throw some blues licks in here. And he's not quite as much. He's starting to get a little more scalar than, you know, targeting tones right through here, but he's kind of playing these little blues licks, which I think sounds really cool. So let's see, what did we just hit? Okay, so the first thing he does, he goes, so we're on the B, we come out of here, then he goes, right? Now this is a weird kind of thing. So he hits, we're over the B major chord, he's starting on the 13th fret of the D string, which is the 3rd chord tone of B major chord. So B major is right here. If you play a 3rd, it's right there, right? I love the way he skips the string here, you know? Now this note is completely out of key, right? It doesn't fit anywhere. It doesn't fit, it's not a chord tone, it's not in a scale. You know, I don't know if it's meant to be kind of chromatic or if he just missed going to the 14th fret, you know, or he meant to make it sound bluesy, because if he was going for the 13th fret of the G string as like the 3rd of an E chord, but we're not really on the E chord, he played the flat 3rd of an E chord. So it's 13, 12, 13. Then we go up and grab 11 to 14 on the high E string. Then he does a bend. All kind of outlining that B major chord, right? Okay. Adjust the tab. Now here's where this is kind of like a really bluesy kind of lick here. Okay, so that's over the E. And he goes, it's 16th fret G string. Then he climbs up 14, 15, 16 chromatically to the 14th fret E string. Then he goes back down. Then he goes. Okay, so what is going on there? All right, so if you look at a B major chord like this, you know, like this, playing it an octave higher, that's the 3rd. I'm sorry, that's the root. It's root, 2nd, flat 3rd, 3rd, 5th. He's just doing a chromatic. You could play it an octave lower, it'd be like this. And he goes back down it. Really cool blues lick, I think. Always doing that chromatic 2nd to flat 3rd to the 3rd and up to the 5th, you know. Okay, so that's what he's doing there. So it's over the E major chord. I think he just kind of was like, I'm just going for a full-on blues in B blues lick. You know, and that stuff in there, that's kind of like that B.B. King. You guys ever study like that B.B. King kind of position, right? Right? That's kind of where he's at. That's that kind of B.B. King style major blues sound. Okay, and then he lands on the B again as the chord changes. Okay, then let's listen a little further. Okay. So now, over the B chord, he does this. Okay, that's, now he's kind of in that, he's definitely feeling a blues thing here. Because now that we're in that kind of second, I kind of view this as like that second box of the pentatonic or the blues scale, you know, like if we were playing a blues. That little triangle in there that he's kind of there, and he's little chromatic slur to there, to the fifth. And then he goes, let's see, 10 to 7 to 8 on the G, 10 to 7 on the B, to 8 on the G. Now that is outlining a dominant 7 chord, right? Flat 7, 5, 3. Because in Mixolydian mode, right, if you add the 7th degree of the root chord, it's a dominant 7 chord when we're in Mixolydian mode. Now they're mostly playing it as just a major chord, just omitting the 7. But if you had it in there, Mixolydian, the root chord, the 1 chord would be a dominant 7 chord. So that's where he's really getting bluesy. Then he does this walk down, chromatic walk down right into the E chord. So that's from the B, the 1 of the chord we're on currently, 7th fret D, sorry, 9th fret, 8th fret, 7th fret, and he lands right on the 3rd chord tone of an E major chord, which is the next chord. So great chord tone targeting there. Then this lick's one of my favorites in the whole tune. So we're on the E major, right? What a way to connect one chord to the next. He first outlines the E chord with a triad, a total straight arpeggio, root, 3rd, 5th. Then he goes 4th degree of a E chord to the 5th, to the 6th. Then from the 5th, he goes there. So now he's approaching the B chord, right? So let's look at this as the root of the B chord, second, flat, third, third, just like this. Right, that lick, same, it's the same concept. He walked right up, root, second, flat, third, third. There's the chromatic thing. So when we talked about chromatics earlier, we talked about chromatics going from the third to the fifth, right here, right? Talked about that lick. And the other place to do chromatics is second, flat, third, third. Those always sound good too. Okay, I believe that's the next lick we're getting ready to get into here. Okay. So there. So we went. There's that sixth interval again over the B. He likes that six. And then he comes back to the 16. Does that chromatic thing from the third to the flat third to the second. Right? That's all over the E there. So we go E, B, now we're on the E chord again. Okay. Now these licks in here, so where are we at here? We're kind of back up into that. This would be like the Phrygian fingering. And then we're walking down through the major scale fingering. Sorry, that chromatic thing. That there, you could kind of look at that. He's on the E chord, right? You could kind of look at that as like an E pentatonic major fingering too. You know, like that, like the country scale. Because it is the fingering there is already naturally C sharp minor, same as B Mixolydian, right? But it, you know, over that E chord, if you have already familiar licks that you use out of that shape, that country scale shape, that's kind of what he's doing there, I think. You know, playing around with that. It's the root of B, but it's also the fifth of the E major chord. Okay, then he does similar thing. He does that quick slur 9, 10, 11 on the A string. Then he slides back up to the 13, which is our third chord tone of the B major chord. Adds a little chromatic flair there. Hitting that flat third, flat in the third. Right there we hit E again. He ends with the bend and the right. So that whole part is like, oh, sorry. right? So when he goes, boom, right there's the E again. Okay? So hopefully you guys are starting to see the chord tone thing and how he's hitting those. Do you guys have any questions? And I know it's getting kind of late. I'm happy to keep going, but if you guys are need to go, okay, I'm gonna keep going. All right, no questions. You guys are getting something out of this. Good. All right, we're getting close to the end here. We're gonna listen through a couple phrases and then we'll come back. Okay, so that's some really, I think what makes that sound the most interesting is the way he plays it. It's just his touch, really. So after this, he kind of really lets it breathe. The downbeat comes, there's nothing. He comes in with that. All right, so whatever that is exactly. But that is a bend on the 14th fret, and you hit the 14 on the E string at the same time. Well, bend, hold, hit it, stop everything. I think what makes it sound so interesting is how he does it. He really cuts it off. Okay, what you're doing there is you are playing the third. You're bending up to the third of B, and you're playing the fifth of B. Pretty common move, actually. Okay, then he does it again. This time, it's kind of weird. When I slowed this down to really listen to that note, it sounds like he's hitting the 15th fret, which sounds out of key. He might have been going for the 16th. He might actually be doing like maybe a semitone bend. That's the whole lick there. So I'll leave it up to you guys. Go grab the 16. I tabbed it as the 15. And there, he's just kind of playing around in that BB King position again. But at the end of that little lick, he definitely throws in a little, it's really slight little bluesy thing there. So he goes, now that is a pre-bend release, right? He bends first, then pulls off to 15, 13, 14, 13, 12, 12. And at the very end, to punctuate it, he gives it a little, just a little bend on the 15th fret, which would be your flat third. That's a blues thing right there for sure. Right there, okay? Then he goes up. He slides up to the 16th fret, our third of B. And right now we are over the B chord, I believe. Yep, okay, so we're over the B chord. Slides up to 16 on the B. 14 on the E, that's our 5th. And then hammer on the 16th fret of the high E string. Then he does a bend. It's a bend, pull off. Sorry, bend, release, pull off to 14, slide to 12. Like that. And that lands us on the, excuse me, now we're on the E chord again. And then we have another kind of bluesy. So it's, let's see. And then he continues that blues lick with a slide down into this range. And again, we're over the E. That's a quick slide there. That's what makes this, you know, some of it sounds so cool. The way he articulates the notes. And that again is, we talked about that country scale, that E country scale thing. That's what he's doing right there. Then we're getting close here. To get back to the B, he's going to go. So that's 9th fret on B, slide to 7. Then you slide up to the 3rd of B on G. Sorry. And hit the root. That's that 6th interval thing that he was kind of doing earlier. All right, let's listen. Got just a few more licks here. I think we got it nailed. Okay. So that gets us through the entire solo. So we've just got a few more licks to run over here. All right, so we got, then he does this cool little blues run again. Right? That's 7 to 8. Again, playing around with that flat third, major third thing. Up to 7 on the E. 10, that's a flat 7. That's why it sounds bluesy. Because it's over the B chord. So he's making that B sound like a B dominant 7 with that flat 7 right there. Sorry. 9, 7, 8. It's a 9 on the D. Does a little chromatic thing there. And when he does that, 7, 6, 7, 6, that lands him on the E. Right? So we have a and that note right there is the 3rd of E, 3rd chord tone of E. Then he does this. E, 3rd of E, 6th of E. Adjust the tab. So we got E, 3rd of E, 6. So there's the fifth of E, little chromatic thing, root of E. This is all over the E major chord. Then, to land on the B, that's the third of B. Then he does, that is a B major arpeggio, right? I mean, that's, right there's a B chord, right? And then he just does a scalar walk down to hit the B. Now we're on the downbeat of the E chord, but that's also the fifth chord tone of E. Then he does this. To end it, right? All based out of that E country scale. And then he's back on the downbeat into the next verse. So that's a lot to go over. So go ahead and unmute yourselves. And I would love to hear any first of all, questions, any feedback on how that went. That's the first time I've really done a live. I've been doing some live beginner lessons, but that's the first one I've done where it's a little more advanced and we're really explaining a lot. So I'd love to know how that was perceived on the other end of it, and if it was helpful, and any questions that you have.
It was cool. I liked it a lot.
Good.
The only thing for me is, I mean, Friday night, I'm good. If you wanted to push it for 2 hours, I would have been cool with that. I would have said, yep. Because, yeah, I could tell at the beginning, it was, we were really going through stuff kind of slow and
right
in detail. And then I could tell you were like, uh-oh.
Well, I saw,
out of time.
Yeah, I saw people starting to drop out, and it was like, oh, I need to get up early and that. So I started to pick it up. I guess we were at an hour and a half, right? So that's not too bad.
Yeah, I'm good.
Did it make sense? Did all that stuff I was explaining kind of make sense?
Yeah, I started picking it up. I could see like the trend that he does, like
yes.
How he just there were several times you'd say, okay, starting out you'd say, see how he does the chord here and how he hits the major notes, but then I would see it again. I'll be, oh, okay, this reminds me just what he did
right.
a couple bars back.
Exactly. Yep. So now I think the way to kind of practice this is noodle around in that Mixolydian scale and either pull up a jam track. There's all kinds of Sugaree jam tracks on YouTube. You can just type in Sugaree jam track on YouTube, and or maybe I'll play something, just a couple bars that will repeat that you can play to. Just noodle around that Mixolydian scale, but be looking to target, especially I think the best thing to do is when you're first practicing it, just look to target the chord tones on the downbeats, on the first bar or the first beat of the bar. The first downbeat, right? And that'll really start. It'll start to sound better. And then, as you really study the solo, he uses a lot of cool things in here. That's why I picked it. He uses double stops, he uses thirds, he uses sixths, slides, bends, pre-bends. It's kind of all there. So study those articulations. Really try to listen to him and how he articulates those things. Those quick little slides, those slurry slides are awesome. That's what, it's kind of bluesy. It's got a little bit of blues in it. And when they say, like, when you're learning how to play the blues, it's really all about you're trying to make your guitar sound like a voice. in essence, right? Like the human voice. And the human voice is like a trombone, right? It can slide all over, all through semitones to each note. We can just slide like a trombone. So the guitar, you know, that's what some of them slides are all about, I think, you know, just trying to make it, you know, sound dynamic and aggressive at times. And, you know, it's all those things play into it and will help you develop your voice and the way you express yourself on the instrument. I think that's what it's really all about, you know. So we use these solos to just learn from, right? We're not necessarily trying to be like, oh, if I go play a gig or I jam with somebody, I want to sound exactly like John Mayer. I mean, that's great. I don't think that's the real purpose. The real purpose is you kind of borrow and steal from people until you kind of created your own kind of signature on it. So, all right. Well, I hope, man, it was enjoyable for me because I like to teach some of this advanced stuff. So, and it just makes it all sink in my head too more. So, I'm really glad you guys could join me. Would you guys recommend that I do more stuff like this, or
especially
Absolutely.
Dead related? I mean, I love the Dead, and
okay?
I mean, this is what I need. I started studying some jazz recently because I wanted to get better at hitting the chord tones. I mean, the trick is, I mean, obviously someone like Mayer can think so much quicker than I can. So sometimes if I'm laying down my best licks, I'm having trouble preparing to get to the next note. And I think you could tell me if this is a good, I think I need to try to be a little more simpler and just make sure I hit that note on the downbeat. And as I get better at it, then maybe up the complexity. Do you think that's a smart approach?
I do. Yeah, I do. Definitely. Yeah. And hey, you know, we're all kind of working to get better. Like I said, I didn't, this concept of chord tone came way late. I mean, I've been playing for almost 30 years. This came way late, like in the last 5, you know, like I was like, whoa, I have been missing the boat. Like, but I think instinctively my ear, I was kind of maybe doing it to some degree, but not really knowing it. Just playing around that blues scale, you start to find the chord tones of the 12-bar blues progression and you hit it. That's another great progression to practice chord tone targeting. It's just a 12-bar blues chord progression. And find those chord tones. You know, part of it is memorizing or knowing where the chord tones are in your scales, right? So if you're warming up, practicing your scales, just in your mind be saying, okay, root, second, third, but you know, you're just kind of memorizing where especially the thirds, the fifths, and like the sevens, the flat sevens, those are your kind of indicator tones, you know. A five, the fifth is cool, but the fifth doesn't really, if you notice, Mayer was using the third a lot. Because the third is what really defines the chord, right? Because a major and a minor chord are root, third, and a fifth. The only thing that is different is the flatting of the third. So that's why power chords, just the 1 and the 5, they don't really give you a sense of, they don't really have a characteristic, right? It's that third that gives a chord the characteristic of kind of that happy sound for major or that sad sound for minor. So the thirds and the sevens are kind of like your lead tones. So Mike, studying jazz, you're gonna want to target those sevens a lot. You know,
Yes, I found it's all sevens, and some of these voicings are ones I'm not used to because I've been playing rock and blues and bluegrass. But
right.
I mean, even just really, I started that a couple weeks ago, and it's already helped me. You know, It's like obvious that it's going to carry over into all those other genres that I also like.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all, yeah. Just keep playing, man. Just keep playing, study people's solos, try to make it your own. You know, I would just sit there and kind of noodle around with this, kind of using some of his stuff and just noodling around, playing down lower on the neck a little bit more so I don't just copy him the whole time, you know. Play it, try licks in multiple positions too, you know, like, you know, we saw him use that flat third, you know, third to flat third thing, like, let's see, this you know, he did it here. Oh, sorry. You know, just know those special ones. You know them in a lot of places. Um, it's all a part of just being familiar with the fretboard too. You know, which is kind of a never ending thing. You know, that's the great thing about any instrument, really, but especially guitar. There's always something to learn, right? So
For sure. I mean, I've noticed that even things that some of the masters have, said, like indicate to me that most of them are still studying, right?
oh
I mean, like
yeah,
they're, that appeals to me. I like a challenge. That's why I
yeah,
pick guitar.
absolutely. That's great. That's good. Peter, did you have anything to add or comment on?
I just want to know, you said you had some pre-recorded prerequisites. What was that?
I'm sorry, you were kind of
So you
breaking
had
up.
some. You said you had some pre-recorded lessons on targeting the roots and all that.
Pre-recorded lessons on what again?
On this topic.
Oh, on the chord tones and all that. Yeah, I can send you guys a couple.
Yeah.
I'll send you guys a couple lessons on there. Especially, I think I did send. I suggested a lesson on the relative modes and the fingerings, so you can get around the neck. That's definitely one to study up on. And then I kind of started a series. I haven't quite finished it. I've been posting them one at a time on chord tone targeting for I can't think of it. It's a jazz tune, but it's a lot more chords. So this was good because it's two chords, just two chords. The blues is another good one, just three chords to worry about. Getting into the jazz stuff, boy, it can get crazy. So I don't even know how some of them guys do it. Like you listen to like somebody like Wes Montgomery or somebody who's just flying through chord changes. I can't quite grasp that yet. So that's my challenge. Jazz is my challenge. That's something I've not delved into a great amount that I want to. And bluegrass, those guys, those flat picker guys that just blaze through those notes are awesome. But it's all kind of similar. It's all targeting chord tones. So there you have it.